Now, Barker has a significant amount of personal resonance for me. Barker, I first came across Barker's works before I even knew who Clive Barker was. I watched Hellraiser when I was very, 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 very young, and I loved it from that instant. It was one of the only horror films, and it's still only one of the only horror films that can creep me out or unsettle me. It leaves me feeling slightly soiled for having watched it, and that's a great thing for a horror film to do, because it has a strange appeal. The Cenobites, despite being mutilated and grotesque, are strangely attractive, as is the philosophy that they offer. They offer a state of experience that transcends pain and pleasure, and it's physical experience that transcends the physical. It goes beyond the parameters of the physical into the metaphysic, and this is something else that is a consistent trope in Barker's works. The notion that you cannot separate the physical from the metaphysical, or the experienced from the imagined. Both go hand in hand and are part of the same fundamental engine or circuit. Similarly, the real and the fantastical clash. The worlds Barker creates are very, very, very real. Even when the narrative shifts from this reality, if you like, into entirely imagined realms, which Imagica, the likes of Imagica and Weaveworld do. Imagica is based around a sort of standard fantasy concept that this world is only one of several. 5 in all, I think there are, called the Dominions. And this is the unreconciled dominion. The other dominions, the entities that inhabit them, can pass between each dominion quite freely and interact with one another, and they're well aware of one another, whereas the unreconciled dominion is closed off. And it's about the reconciliation of that dominion with the others, and how we as humans react to that, which is not always flattering. There's a lot of human malevolence and self-interest exposed in Barker's works. Another thing he is interested in is how we regard the miraculous and the fantastical. He has absolute contempt for Disney, which he describes as a corporation which uses magic to sell hamburgers, by which he means that it provides a very stilted, unimaginative standard of the miraculous just in order to make money. And that is something that occurs in Barker's fiction again and again. You always have these very capitalist, acquisitive human beings in Barker's work that want to sell Wonderland. They see magic, they see miracles, genuine miracles, and they want, the first thing they think is how can I sell this? How much can I make off of it? The book Weaveworld is largely about that. Weaveworld is about a magic world that exists inside of a carpet. And there's a character in it called Shadwell, who in many ways is the principal villain, and all he's interested in is selling it. That's what he sees, this magical world that is a place of wonder and miracles and magic. He wants to sell it. It's an excellent metaphor for the likes of televangelists, etc., who are interested in playing upon people's need for the miraculous, for the fantastical, in order to make money, rather than seeing the wonder of that desire and what can come as a result of it. Now, Barker's metaphysics is very, very strange. It's something that doesn't operate within any standard parameter of the spiritual or the religious. It incorporates them, but it doesn't operate within any kind of stricture imposed by them. Barker describes himself as a strange kind of believer. He has a very abstruse concept of God. It's not something that anyone would recognise as the Judeo-Christian God, although it incorporates it. The Bible and other religious texts are constant references in Barker's works. but he doesn't believe that the books themselves are any record of literal fact. Rather, they are human attempts to seek after the metaphysic and the divine and so on and so forth, and therefore have worth in that regard, in the same way that poetry does. They are, insofar as Barker is concerned, works of art that demonstrate a human capacity for transcendence or self-transcendence. And that is always what he's interested in. Barker's characters, again, are always really interesting because they never, although they are in the midst of powers and entities that could eradicate them with a thought, they never seem to be prey to them. They always seem to take a hold of their own destinies and find their own way through, and that's something that's very important to Barker, it seems. His characters are never sort of swept up or carried along with events. They take the reins themselves, even when the consequences can be quite negative. This is particularly true of the female characters. Barker writes women really well, in that they are not just women. They are not women characters, in the same way that women characters occur in, say, a Dean Koontz novel, or sometimes Stephen King is a bit guilty of this as well. He tends to write rather stereotypical female characters, whereas Barker, the women in Barker's fiction are always their own entities. They tend to be the protagonists. They do not tend to be beauties. In fact, in one of my favourite of Barker's books, Cold Heart Canyon, which is a scathing attack upon Hollywood from the inside, Barker has although he does love Hollywood, he also has the unenviable position of seeing its rather sickly and disgusting internal processes from an inside vantage point, and that's what this book is about. It's about exposing the hypocrisy and the hideousness of Hollywood. I believe her name is Tammy, and she is what you would describe as a normal person. She is not beautiful, she's overweight, she's not monstrously clever, not monstrously stupid, she's just a normal human being who has her own drives and obsessions and so on and so forth. She's an absolutely brilliant character and one of the most endearing of Barker's, simply because of her normality. And this is something you find quite often in Barker's works. Characters who are complex and who don't really operate with reference to the needs of the story. It's a really strange situation. They often go off and do their own rather abstruse things depending on what their inclinations are. And it makes for a very interesting, slightly schizophrenic read.